hey, if we want to change the world at a macro level, we need to heal ourselves. And there's two things that are required to create an alternative system for humanity. Number one is we have to liberate our attention. Because if you don't have attention sovereignty, you cannot consciously create. And our attention is being hijacked all the time, intentionally. And in order to prevent the hijacking of your attention, the solution is heal. Because if you can metabolize fear off your nervous system, fear cannot grab you anymore. And now you become an intentional creator. So I was like, okay, if we can do this at scale, now we've got tens or hundreds of millions of people who have liberated attention who can direct it wherever they want. The second thing is we have to start building the scaffolding of a new system. Regenerative financial system, regenerative healthcare system. A system that is not about extraction, but where like 1 + 1 = 3. And so that was the vision I had for Whole Human. That God spoke to me. So that through that extraordinary compression and the vision that I've been given, which is what we're focusing on now. We have the coaching company, we have Whole Human. Whole Human is this distributed economy of consciousness where people help other people awaken, utilizing this amazing framework, and then supporting entrepreneurship in an ecosystem that begins to become a parallel system to the one that's out there right now that's falling apart. Thank you for letting me share that. I'm obviously super enthusiastic about it, but that's God speaking to me. What does someone do if they're wanting to find purpose? Again, it goes back to the golden equation. Desire plus non-resistance equals desired result. What is your desire? My desire is I want to know what I'm here to do. I want to find purpose. I want to know what my gifts are and how to leverage them in the world. I want to become financially abundant. I want to be in service of other people. But it's inherent in all of us. What am I meant to do here? So great, desire. Now be non-resistant to it. Well, what does that mean? Well, notice if you start moving into, but what if I don't have a purpose? Well, why haven't I discovered my purpose yet? Well, other people seem to have a purpose. Well, what if my purpose is already taken? What if my purpose is already passed? That's all the inner chatter. That's the limiting beliefs that is the resistance. So if you have a desire, meaning you ask, and you're patient, you'll receive. It's 100% consistent and predictable. How will it occur for me, David? Well, you'll have some thoughts and ideas. You'll see something on YouTube. Somebody will say something to you. An opportunity will show up. You'll have the courage to follow it. It'll be baby steps. It won't show up all at once. But hold on to the desire to know your purpose, and notice when you become resistant to that desire, and use whatever tools you can to drop the resistance. Give it some time, like a dash of patience, and you'll become clear on what your purpose is.
How does someone know when they should continue on their purpose versus pivot on their purpose? Because when you are clear on your purpose or you feel called towards something, usually in the beginning, there is some luck, there is some signs and people supporting you, or there is some, I tried this thing and it actually worked to get you going. But then there's usually some type of resistance or obstacle or challenge or hurdle or whatever it is. So how do you know when you're supposed to continue through the challenges and obstacles and continue the patience of all the challenges and obstacles that may come your way versus this just isn't for me anymore. Let me pivot towards something else.
Because also we change over time.
Of course.
Right? So you grow and evolve, and so your purpose grows. Like, look at mine. At first I thought my purpose was building a coaching company, which it still is. Now it's Whole Human, right? And looking at that story, I was running into a lot of friction and resistance with the coaching company.
So it had to evolve. Yeah.
So it had to evolve. The answer is step away. The answer is step away. Like, I think we give ourselves a lot more credit for things than we deserve. In other words, you don't pivot. The pivot happens to you. And so how do you allow the pivot to happen to you? It's like, well, like you said, if you're working through the obstacles and it feels exhausting, you step away from the problem, right? And as you step away from the problem, you disentangle yourself from it. You give space for your consciousness to renormalize. And in that space, you'll have new perspectives, new thoughts, new ideas. Now, you may go back to the same obstacles and overcome them. You may move in another direction. Sometimes you move in another direction. Like I started Whole Human in 2021. It was too early. And I came back to the coaching business. But we're very rigid about these types of inquiries a lot of times too, right? It's like, keep doing the obstacles or do I pivot?
Yeah,
It's like, relax a little bit,
Yeah.
right? Give it some time.
Yeah.
You're not going to figure it out today. It may not be this week, but we're learning, Bruce Lee talks about being like bamboo, right? Bamboo is strong because it knows when to be rigid, but it also sways in the wind, right? And so we're learning to do that as human beings because we grew up with so much rigidity. There's also that quote from Einstein that people quote all the time. You can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. So you got to step away from your problems. And I would say get into solution frequency. What is solution frequency? Well, it's the beautiful things in your life. Because at one point in time, the absence of them were problems. Now they've shown up in their solutions. And that's why when you're trying to hammer through an obstacle or you don't know whether or not to pivot, and you go for a hike in Runyon Canyon, you have clarity.
Yes.
Right? You go play with your furry friend and something hits you. Go get a good workout in and it hits you.
Yes.
But the other important piece in all of this is, man, give it some time. Like we're all living in so much time scarcity. And one of the things we teach entrepreneurs is to stop paying attention to time and start inquiring more around what creates timing. Because timing is so much more powerful than time. Meeting the right person, running into the right opportunity, having the right resource show up. We all have 24 hours in a day. But time is a measurement of change. Timing is a measurement of alignment, calibration. So if you can become aligned and calibrated, which is living in a powerful state, which is trying to live in non-resistant as best as you can. We're not going to do it 24 hours a day. You start to activate timing, the timing of thoughts and ideas and coincidences. So if someone is trying to figure out whether to keep pushing through or whether to pivot, I would say step away and see what happens.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you pivot, you can always come back to it. And if you keep pushing through on something, you can always pivot. So we make it a much bigger deal than it is.
I love the idea of timing versus being afraid of like time's running out. And it's, I guess we're technically, I'm 43 or 50. It's like, all right, we're getting close to halfway done, or who knows, maybe there's more time, but it's not like we're 7 years old and we have all of our lives ahead of us, right? So we have to start looking at life with a different perspective, I guess, through a different lens. Where how do we not get scarce around time if you feel like it's running out or you don't have your whole life ahead of you, and focus rather on timing? How do you do that when you're not 12 years old?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I was having a conversation with ChatGPT that has all my labs and everything that I was doing. And I said, hey, based on my labs and based on current...
how long do I have to
Based on current technologies, based on how healthy I am, because I'm actually an incredibly healthy human being.
Yeah.
And based on the current technologies that are out there, stem cells, CRISPR technologies, all this stuff.
And what's coming.
And what's coming. And granted, AI can hallucinate.
Yeah.
I was like, give me an estimate of how long I'll live. So in terms of like health span, like living well, 125 years.
Wow.
Okay. So that's my intention. If it's 125 years, I got 75 years to go. But like, I have such insane compounding interest at 50. Like if you ever look at how compounding interest works, right? If you were to set aside $100,000 a year, which is a lot of money for some people and it's not a lot of money for others, $100,000 a year, and you just put it in some combination of the S&P 500, Bitcoin, gold, 8% average return. You could have a defensive position because the world seems like it's a little bit crazy right now. But if you just get an 8% annualized return at $100,000 a year that you put into that over 40 years, you're worth $24 million. But what's interesting is that if you live 10 more years, it's another $32 million.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I'm just starting a hockey stick. So that excites me. Like I don't think I can even fathom what I can accomplish. So I could look at it as like I'm almost halfway through, or we got 75 years, bro, let's go. So that's the way I look at it. And again, part of it is turning it over to my higher power. Like it's a very edging God out type of conversation to have, but it's certainly, when I turned 50, believe me, I had it with myself of like where am I at, and checking, am I as far along as I wanted to be now, and how much time do I have left? And your mind will do this mental calculation, right? But the mind doesn't understand the compounding interest. So, that's why longevity is so important.
Yeah.
But I do think it is important to understand that no matter where you are in your life, the accumulation of your lived experience has set you up for such extraordinary growth moving forward. And we don't give credit to that reality.
Yeah. You've got an amazing book out called A Changed Mind, which is go beyond self-awareness, rewire your brain, and re-engineer your reality. This came out about a few years ago. What is the one thing in this book you feel like if people took away one idea, it would help them more than anything else?
I struggled with limiting beliefs for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
There were some that I had shifted, but others that I didn't. And I was in this burning desire inquiry of like, man, there's got to be an easier way to shift my beliefs. Like, what is it that I need to know? My wife and I were going for a walk one day. And it's a 2 millimeter distinction, so it's easy to miss, but it is just absolutely dramatically changed the way I do my personal growth. And I see feedback from folks who've been in our work that it's this distinction. It's the distinction that beliefs are decisions. So when we were growing up, we came to the conclusion when our little buddy didn't show up at the drinking fountain that we can't trust people. But it was a decision. And as a result of that unconscious decision, we've been living in a hallucination ever since. We've only been paying attention to anything that supports that decision, and we've been ignoring everything else. Mm-hmm. And if that's true, then at any point in time, I should be able to identify a limiting belief and make a new decision. Mm. And so we have this wonderful process in the book called the decision matrix that helps people identify the limiting belief, make a new decision, which is always the opposite of the limiting belief, and then ask a really simple question, which is, what evidence do I have for the fact that this new decision is true? And what you'll do is you'll actually source those memories that you've been filtering out. And as you do that, you build evidence for the new belief. And most often, by the time you're done with that little process and you look back at the limiting belief, it doesn't even make sense anymore. Mm. But the idea that beliefs are decisions, I think, demystifies the concept of beliefs, because we can get into trauma and this and that and all these things, but ultimately they were unconscious decisions. And as an adult, you have an ability to respond, a responsibility when you find a limiting belief, and that is to make a new empowered decision.
Mm. The decision matrix.
The decision matrix.
Mm. That's great, man. I've got a couple final questions for you. This has been really powerful. I want people to check out your work. Before I ask the final questions, they can go to your podcast. It's called A Changed Mind. You're also on YouTube. You've got a great YouTube channel sharing a lot of this information. David Bayer 33 on Instagram and YouTube. And wholehuman.com/greatness. For anyone here watching or listening, your team's created a free assessment that identifies people's 2 biggest limiting beliefs and gives you a powerful tool to transform them. So guys, anyone can check out wholehuman.com/greatness to check out the free assessment as well. This question is called the 3 truths. Imagine you live to 125, healthy, whole human life, but it's the last day. Your creator says, time to go here to the next place. And you get to create and manifest anything you want from now until that moment. But for whatever reason, you have to take everything with you. Nothing can be left behind. Your book, your work, your content, no one has access to this information anymore. But on your final day, you get to leave behind 3 truths, 3 things you know to be true, or 3 lessons that you would leave behind. What would those 3 truths be for you?
Oh, man. I've heard you ask this question on so many episodes. Now I have to answer.
I got to answer it.
I think one truth or encouragement is to believe in the certainty of the goodness of the future. That would be one. The second truth would be that life is always working for your greatest growth, your greatest prosperity, and your greatest evolution. And I think the third truth, well, I think Jesus said it best, all things are possible to he that believeth.
Mm.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge you, David, for the journey you've been on. You know, for me, it's like you're 50, you have a child who's 3.5, and you've gone through a big transformation in the last 5 years. You've got a lot of wisdom to share. So I acknowledge you for putting it in the book, for doing the weekly podcast, for sharing this information, and for creating frameworks around the suffering and the pain you've experienced to try to give peace and resolution for people in their lives so they can understand how to go through the process better. And I think when people have gone through enough pain and shame and guilt and beating themselves up and have done the work like yourself and all the different programs, you can take kind of the best of those programs and share what's worked for you. So I want to acknowledge you for doing that work, for suffering for as long as you did, and getting through it on the other side, finding more peace and purpose in your life and helping so many people. It's been really cool to connect and hear more about the book.
Yeah, so, I appreciate that acknowledgement. Thanks,
of course, man. Final question, what's your definition of greatness?
Greatness is becoming who you came here to be, living your authentic self.